Hello, welcome to my devotional series, Read Genesis with me. I'm Michele Silvernail. Today our passage is about rivers, so I thought we'd come down to the river for a few minutes. This is the beautiful Tennessee River. Lots of lovely things to see. Before we read our passage, I'd like to ask you to hang with me until the end of this video because I want to talk about unanswered questions. Most of us have unanswered questions in our lives, but today I'd like to ask you to quit asking God questions for a minute and instead answer some of His. Okay, but first, today's passage, Genesis 2:10 through 14. A river went out from Eden to water the garden. From there it divided and became the source of 4 rivers. The name of the first is Pishon, which encircles the entire land of the Havilah, where there is gold. Gold from that land is pure, but bdellium and onyx are also there. The name of the second river is Gihon, which encircles the entire land of Cush. The name of the third river is the Tigris, which flows to the east of Assyria, and the fourth river is the Euphrates. God created great rivers. This passage also talks about God created gold and precious stones as well. Let's be careful not to become blasé about the fact that God created the earth and you and me. Let's continually remind ourselves of God's greatness and holiness, because God Himself reminds us through the book of Job to have awe and reverence for who He is. We humans often have many unanswered questions about life. Why did God create man if He knew man would sin? How will God judge people who have never heard of Jesus? Why do children get sick? You know, questions in themselves are not wrong. It is part of life to have questions. And many of us have experienced painful losses or extremely difficult life situations. And I am not minimizing those things. They are real, and God understands the hurts, disappointments, and losses that plague our human life. However, I say this as kindly and respectfully as I can. You cannot remain in the bitterness and sadness of unanswered questions, or it can prevent you from accepting the gift of salvation through faith. Or, if you are a Christian, it can make you ineffective and even a hindrance to God's kingdom. You see, if you are determined not to love and not to submit to God until all of your questions are answered to your satisfaction, then you will never love and submit to God. We are finite, created beings, and God has revealed many answers, but not all answers. And He never will answer some of our questions, at least not this side of heaven, and maybe not even then. But before we continue, before you get upset that God won't answer all of your questions, let's talk about this man in the Bible named Job, who lost his children, his wealth, and his health. He came before God with questions. But instead of answering Job's questions, God asked Job a few questions of his own. Job was questioning God's goodness and His wisdom. And here are God's questions. Job 38, 2-7 says, "Who is this who obscures my counsel with ignorant words? Get ready when I question you. You will inform me. Where were you when I established the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who fixed its dimensions? Certainly you know. Who stretched a measuring line across it? What supports its foundations, or who laid its cornerstone?" God has lots more questions. Read Job chapters 38, 39, and 40. And here are just a few. Have you ever in your life commanded the morning or assigned the dawn its place? Have you traveled to the sources of the sea or walked in the depths of the oceans? Have the gates of death been revealed to you? Have you seen the gates of death's shadow? Have you comprehended the extent of the earth? Tell me if you know all this. Where is the road to the home of light? Do you know where darkness lives? Have you entered the place where the snow is stored? Or have you seen the storehouses of hail, which I hold in reserve for times of trouble? Who cuts a channel for rain or clears the way for lightning? Can you fasten the chains of the Pleiades or loosen the belt of Orion? Can you bring out the constellations in their seasons and lead the bear and her cubs? Do you know the laws of heaven? Can you impose its authority on earth? Can you command the clouds so that a flood of water covers you? Can you send out lightning bolts? And where they go? Do they report to you, "Here we are"? Do you give strength to the horse? Does the hawk fly by your understanding and spread its wings to the south? Does the eagle soar at your command and make its nest on high? Will the one who contends with the Almighty correct him? Let him who argues with God give an answer. Would you really challenge my justice? Would you declare me guilty to justify yourself? These are the questions God asked Job and asks you and me. Before we demand God answer all of our questions, perhaps we should try to answer his. But of course we cannot. A realization of our own limited understanding and power should inspire us to approach God with reverence and awe. Hear the geese in the background? Too often we come to God with an accusatory tone and we challenge his wisdom, we question his goodness, we act as if we are more compassionate than God, and we accuse him of being unfair and unreasonable when he is the author of fairness, reason, wisdom, and goodness. We think if our questions are not answered to our satisfaction, we are justified in not submitting our lives to him. See, even the geese is pitching in there. But God asks, would you declare me guilty to justify yourself? Job 48. What will you do, my friend? You can seek answers, but more importantly, seek God and determine to do as Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not to thine own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths." Trust God, worship him and love him, and you will be satisfied even without perfect understanding. Bye-bye, friends.